Fighting against a vocal minority to introduce gun control, former Prime Minister John Howard said it was the fight Australia needed to have. 1996 also saw a cut to migration levels and a strained relationship with China. Sky News sat down with the former Prime Minister to reflect on his turbulent first year in government as the papers from his first cabinet are released from the National Archives. You were first full in government, though. What were the biggest challenges you found in kind of making that cohesion?
Well, the biggest challenge you have when you've won an election with a big majority is to meet the expectations of the people who supported you. And I was determined that we'd do that. And we set about implementing our program. We set about fixing the budget. We set about fixing industrial relations, including the waterfront. And we also had to contend with things that we didn't know were coming, such as the tragedy at Port Arthur. I mean, nobody knew that was coming in.
When you look at what decision you had to make again, is there anything you'd do differently?
No, I thought what we did in relation to guns was right, and it was difficult for some of my colleagues, but it was absolutely the right stance to take, and that's been vindicated because we've prevented further mass shootings, made a contribution to reducing the youth suicide rate, particularly in the bush. I think all of those are great achievements.
When you look at the setting of those migration levels that you did in 1996, it did have a bit of pushback at the time. Do you think that it was the right thing to do?
I'm sure it was the right thing to do. Absolutely. We wouldn't have done it otherwise. When you look at the papers, this was a new, energetic government that stuck to its guns, set about fixing the economy, fixing industrial relations, and dealing with unexpected challenges. And I think by the time you got to the end of 1997, you had a government that had done all of those things.
Was there a greater cohesion within your government than what you're seeing now?
I think right at the moment, the Prime Minister is doing an extremely good job of getting people's focus on issues that matter, economic issues, border protection issues, and trying to compare, according to the criteria in your question, a government now with a government 22 years ago is really quite difficult, and I'm not inside the current government and I'm not aware of some of the challenges he has, and equally the people who make up the current government were not inside my government. So I'll pass on that.
Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren has become the first Democrat to declare she will run for president in 2020. She announced she's formed an exploratory committee, saying America's middle class is under attack.
Today, I'm launching an exploratory committee for president.
A prominent Democrat taking a major step towards running for president. Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren announcing she is launching an exploratory committee that allows potential candidates to begin raising money for a campaign. At this point, Warren is the highest profile Democrat to officially move closer to a 2020 White House bid.
That's very predictable. You can tell she has been wanting to run for president since she made it to the Senate.
Warren burst onto the national scene during the financial crisis with calls for greater consumer protections. She quickly became one of the Democratic Party's more prominent liberals, even as she sometimes crossed hairs with the Obama administration over the administration's response to the market turmoil. Now Warren is making an appeal to the party's base, and she has long been a target of President Trump.
Massachusetts is represented by Pocahontas, right? Pocahontas. It's represented by Pocahontas. Oh, she's terrible. She is just a terrible person.
In October, Warren took the rare step of releasing DNA test results, examining her possible Native American ancestry. An apparent response to persistent criticism from President Trump and other Republicans. The results showed, quote, strong evidence that Warren had a Native American ancestor dating back 6 to 10 generations.
Our government's supposed to work for all of us, but instead it has become a tool for the wealthy and well-connected.
The Democratic field could be the largest in decades, with dozens reportedly interested in running for the White House.
It kind of typifies what the Democrats will likely see, which is a large group of candidates running early, getting to the far left.
As for details about a campaign, Warren says she'll have more information in the coming weeks.
The partial US government shutdown that began on midnight of December 21st continues with no sign of compromise on the horizon. Nearly 800,000 workers are in danger of not receiving their first paycheck in the new year.
It is day 10 of the partial government shutdown, and there is still no resolution in sight. President Trump remains at the White House, and he is not backing down on his demands for funds to build a border wall. He tweeted this morning, quote, "I campaigned on border security, which you cannot have without a strong and powerful wall. Our southern border has long been an open wound where drugs, criminals, including human traffickers and illegals, would pour into our countries. Dems should get back here and fix now." Congress does plan to meet today in brief pro forma sessions, but neither side is expected to budge. Democrats say they are not willing to pass any legislation to fund a border wall.
It's very ineffective because we already have sections of the border with walls, and gangs go over them, they tunnel underneath, they go around, and drugs actually come right through the checkpoints.
Republicans insist that any bill without funding for the wall would not pass the Senate. But Senator Lindsey Graham is still hopeful that a deal might be reached.
I know there's some Democrats out there who would be willing to provide money for wall border security if we could deal with the DACA population and TPS people. And hopefully we can get some serious discussions started maybe as soon as next week.
Now, negotiations are not expected to resume in earnest until Thursday. That's when Democrats take control of the House, and Nancy Pelosi is set to regain the gavel as House Speaker. She says that she intends to pass a bill to fund the government, but not the wall. So this partial government shutdown could easily last another week or two, perhaps even longer.